This is the second lecture for Sartre's Existentialism is a Humanism. So the first topic is just this same topic as the last lecture, Descartes' cogito. It comes up again on page 40. He says, as our point of departure, there can be no other truth than that. I think, therefore I am. This is the absolute truth of consciousness confronting itself. Any theory that considers man outside of this moment of self-awareness is, at the outset, a theory that suppresses the truth. For outside of this Cartesian cogito, all objects are merely probable, and blah, blah, blah. So nothing new to say about this. Just a reminder from the previous lecture, cogito is short for cogito ergo sum. That's the Latin for I think, therefore I am. This idea that you can know for sure that you exist because you are thinking. And so we can start from there, says Descartes, and also says Sartre. Next topic. On pages 44 to 45, Sartre is talking about how existentialism works and what rationality is for existentialism. He says, I can always choose, but I must also realize that if I decide not to choose, that still constitutes a choice. This may seem a purely technical difference, but it's very important since it limits whim and caprice. Although it's true that in confronting any real situation, blah, 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 I'm obliged to choose an attitude toward that situation. And in any case, I bear the responsibility of a choice that, in committing myself, also commits humanity as a whole. Even if a priori value can even if no a priori value can influence my choice, the latter has nothing to do with caprice. My choice has nothing to do with caprice. And if anyone thinks this is just another example of Guide's version of the gratuitous act, he has failed to grasp the vast difference between our theory and Guide's. Guide doesn't know what a situation is, he merely acts by caprice. He acts merely by caprice. Our view, on the other hand, is blah, blah, blah. So just the contrast that he's drawing here, because it's not as if we've read this Guide guy. So this theory of the gratuitous act is this thought of an act that is done for no reason at all. So it's, as Sartre put it, he acts merely by caprice. So not with any good reason, not with any good justification, just based on, well, I don't know, feeling or nothing at all or randomness. But the important thing is that it's gratuitous in the sense that it's not supported by a reason. There's no reason behind the action. There's no justification for the action. We talked a little bit about reasons and rationality back in the Zangwill lecture. And again, as I said in that lecture, it's not like this is a new idea that you've never thought of before. We always talk about having reasons to do certain things. And so what Guide is talking about is an action that doesn't have a reason. I don't know, it's you do it for no reason, anything goes or whatever, I don't know. But what's important here is that Sartre is drawing a distinction between that kind of action done purely from caprice, purely with no reason at all. And he's saying, well, that's not what the existentialist is talking about. The existentialist is talking about something entirely different. So here is what the existentialist is talking about. So when you get to 45, you can read that. But it's important to distinguish what the existentialist says from the idea that, there's no reason to do anything. It's sort of down to caprice or whim or you can choose whatever you want, or it's totally subjective in the sense that there's nothing, whatever, arbitrary. As you read this section, you'll get a lot more discussion of this. Cool. And then the last thing, it's not a huge point for us, so if you want, you can stop listening to the lecture here. But this is just to talk a bit about what's going on in the existentialist moral theory. We get this in Sartre, and we also get it in de Beauvoir. And what we're going to talk about is that it's very similar to Kant's moral theory. And so we haven't studied Kant's moral theory in this class, so we'll just get like a bit of background about it, and then a bit of discussion about it and the existentialist moral theory. So again, in the Zangwill lecture, we talked a little bit about Kantianism. So in the Zangwill lecture, I characterized it as, look, everybody has rights. You have to treat them in accordance with their rights. You have duties to people because of their rights. The way Kant often describes it is that, other people are ends in themselves. And so he has uh, d- division between things that are means and things that are ends. A thing that is a means is good for something else. So money is a means for getting access to other stuff. Money is not an end in itself. There's no reason to get money for money's sake. Getting richer doesn't help you because being rich is good. Getting richer helps you because it can get other stuff. Money is a means to other ends. And those ends are the good things. So maybe like, feeling comfortable or eating food or whatever. Maybe those are ends in themselves. Or maybe not. Maybe you only eat food to survive, and surviving is an end in itself. I don't know, whatever it is. Kant's idea is that people are never merely means. You can never treat someone merely as a means. You can never sort of treat someone merely like they exist for the sake of your life. Rather, those people are ends in themselves also. Those people exist for their own sake. Those people matter just because they exist, just like you matter just because you exist. There's no further reason for you to exist. Your existence in itself matters, and it's a source of reasons to do things, and it's kind of the foundation of morality. Morality is about treating yourself as if you have a reason to exist just because you exist, and very importantly, treating other people in the same sort of way. There's nothing special about you. You're not, the king of the universe. Every human being is an end in themselves. Every human being sort of deserves to exist just because they exist. Anybody who exists matters because they are who they are. And so that's the Kantian moral theory, and he thinks you build it up all from there. And one thing you'll notice is that effectively the existentialist moral theory is pretty much the same exact thing. The freedom as the definition of man doesn't depend on others, but as soon as there is commitment, I'm obliged to will the freedom of others at the same time as I will my own. I cannot set my own freedom as a goal without also setting the freedom of others as a goal. So the thought is that being free in the existentialist sense, this isn't something that just applies to you. It applies to everybody just as much as it applies to you, because everybody is equally positioned. Everybody is sort of existentially free in the way the existentialist talks about. You're not the one special human that's the only free person who's ever existed. Everybody is equally free. And because they are just as free as you, when operating on the level of complete authenticity, I have acknowledged that existence precedes essence, and that man is a free being who under any circumstances can only ever will his freedom. I have at the same time acknowledged that I must will the freedom of others. So in order to be authentic for an existentialist, in order to, act in the way that the world actually appears to you, you have to treat other people, respect other people's freedom, just like the way you have to understand and treat and respect your own freedom. Anything else is sort of ignoring the way the world actually works. The world actually is full of people who are just as free as you are. And so, so the thought is that other people sort of, they're free beings in themselves, and anything that doesn't respect their freedom is inauthentic, according to the existentialist. It's something that you shouldn't do. And this is effectively what you get from Kant's moral theory, because a big thing I kind of left out in the early description of it is that he thinks in being ends in ourselves, we're free. We have freedom. In fact, that's what makes us ends in ourselves. That's why humans matter and rocks don't. The human has free will and makes choices and stuff, and the rock doesn't. So you have to respect the human's existence as an end in itself, but not the rocks. And so, that's Kant. That's the existentialist. You get a bit about how the existentialist disagrees with Kant on the bottom of 49, but in broad strokes, they basically say the same sorts of things. If you've studied Kant's moral theory before, then you can sort of apply that to what you know about Kant to the existentialists, because again, very similar. And we'll see this in this reading and also in de Beauvoir's second reading.